The knight tenderly reassures the trembling girl in his arms that he is here by her side and everything is all right now. Cradling her close, he quietly confesses that he already knows her husband holds someone more important to him than her. Standing rigid in the luxurious hallway, the pale-haired woman bitterly concludes that she knew it all along and they must divorce quickly. Tears spill down her lovely face as she silently vows she has to set him free, her voice breaking on the unfinished word. The scene shifts to the sprawling kingdom of Oriole 3 months earlier, its spires gleaming beneath a vast and cloudless sky. A gentle voice calls through the door asking to come in, and the flustered young Ennis Roberts, medical mage, breathlessly grants permission to Mrs. Thompson. Beaming with delight, the cheerful Mrs. Thompson, Ennis's superior, gushes that the dress looks absolutely wonderful on her. Settling in warmly, Mrs. Thompson thanks Ennis for attending in place of her uncle and gently teases that she has finally reached the age for formal matchmaking. Blushing softly, Ennis reveals with quiet gladness that she turned 18 just last month. By royal decree, every unmarried man and woman over 18 possessing magical power is strictly obligated to marry a designated partner. Gazing out with faint apprehension, Ennis reflects that today is the very day she gets to meet the man she has been matched with. Asked if she is nervous, Ennis admits anxiously that she simply does not want to come across as rude to her future partner. Mrs. Thompson warmly reassures her that she will be just fine, though Ennis frets that the clothes and the mansion are both so luxurious she cannot relax. Leaning in with a fond smile, Mrs. Thompson tells the girl she is such a beauty, exactly like her mother, and Ennis bashfully wonders if it is really true. Time drags on as a servant apologizes that the partner's work is running longer than expected, and Mrs. Thompson graciously insists she will wait patiently. Composed and kind, Ennis reassures the anxious servant that she has the whole day free and there is absolutely no need to worry. The panels tick forward through 1 hour, then 30 minutes, then 15, as the two women wilt into an increasingly awkward, steaming silence. Fanning herself with growing embarrassment, Mrs. Thompson blurts that Ennis is the daughter of a baron and this wait has become far too long, while a mortified Ennis stammers that they were only ever a poor noble family anyway. The scene softens into memory as Ennis recounts that her parents died when she was young, yet she gently insists she is really okay, her uncle having taken over the household and rebuilt its ruined finances through tireless effort. Watching her friend endure so much with a smile, Mrs. Thompson pointedly reminds Ennis that she is allowed to be angry for her own sake, and the girl only laughs the remark quietly away. A servant grandly announces that Lord Sergio and his escort, Captain of the Knights Renato, have finally arrived, and Ennis breathlessly thanks them for waiting. Ennis's wide violet eyes tremble with startled wonder as she silently echoes the name Lord Sergio. The imposing silver-haired knight steps into the flower-strewn room and coolly apologizes for keeping her waiting. Settling onto the sofa, the escort humbly begs to apologize as well, explaining that the monster subjugation mission ran far longer than anyone expected. Blushing faintly, Ennis assures him it is not at all a bother, while Sergio evenly promises that he truly kept them both waiting and will absolutely make it up to her. Mrs. Thompson brightly moves to introduce him, presenting Lord Sergio Loven, aged 25. The fourth son of a marquis family related to the royal line. Ennis's eyes widen in dawning recognition as she marvels that even someone as unfamiliar with society as herself instantly knows exactly who he is. She reflects with quiet awe that he is an elite who became royal guard to the crown prince at a remarkably young age, and blessed with such stunning looks. Gazing across the party in her mind, Ennis notes that people supposedly line up just for the chance to speak with him. A wave of dread crumples her face as she inwardly despairs that he is definitely going to reject her. Spiraling anxiously, she wonders why she was ever matched with him and decides this pairing was a mismatch from the very start, recalling that engagements do occasionally get cancelled. As Mrs. Thompson begins detailing that Lady Ennis is the daughter of the Roberts family, Sergio flinches with a sudden, sharp reaction. Setting down his cup, the cold-eyed knight quietly cuts the introduction short with a curt enough, "Thank you." Ennis's heart sinks as she privately admits he is handsome but his eyes are so terribly cold, and Sergio flatly declares the introduction sufficient. Leaning toward the stunned girl, Sergio abruptly and plainly proposes that the two of them get married. Ennis freezes, her flushed face caught between disbelief and confusion as she can only manage a bewildered huh. Behind his teacup Sergio calmly reasons it would be rude to refuse, being from a marquis family while she is a commoner, as Ennis reels over whether he just proposed and what on earth it means. Panic overtakes her as she frets whether she could truly fulfill the role of a marquis's wife, stammering helplessly while the escort gently prompts, "Then, Lady Ennis." Coolly sipping his tea, Sergio offers with detached grace that she may give her answer later if she would like. Turning her face away, Ennis reminds herself that this was a formal matchmaking from the very beginning, her whispered no hanging uncertainly in the air. Steeling her nerves before the 2 waiting nights, Ennis falteringly begins that she may be inexperienced, but she will do her best. Tears brimming in her wide eyes, the flushed girl bows her head and softly asks him to please take care of her. Sergio regards her coolly for a moment before evenly replying that he will, and asking her to take care of him as well. Mrs. Thompson and her colleague beam with delight, offering warm congratulations before immediately pivoting to scheduling the wedding. The efficient staff rattle off questions about venues and Lady Ennis's move-in timing while Sergio crisply issues orders, leaving Ennis reeling that the conversation is racing forward so fast. Resting his chin thoughtfully on his hand, Sergio decides the ceremony should wait until she has had time to adjust to her new life. Extending a courteous hand, the knight gently asks whether it would be all right to have her move in first, and a flustered Ennis stammers out her agreement. Mrs. Thompson leans over the dazed girl to check that she is okay, and Ennis breathlessly thanks her, admitting things are moving pretty quickly. Seated amid the grand parlor, Ennis marvels inwardly that she never once imagined it would turn out like this. A single tear slips down her smiling face as she confesses that, honestly, none of this feels real. The scene shifts as a gentle voice promises a patient that they will get better soon, the view drifting across an infirmary before settling on a grand building 2 weeks later. Surrounded by grateful staff, a beaming Ennis basks in a young boy's delighted praise that she is absolutely amazing. Finishing her healing, she warmly warns the child to be careful not to get hurt, while an adult prompts him to say thank you properly. The little boy throws his arms up joyfully and cries out his heartfelt thanks to the miss. Watching a family walk away hand in hand, Ennis's lone eye softens with a quiet, wistful ache. Kneeling to heal a patient, Ennis explains that she works as a medical mage in the royal palace, originally meant to treat knights and nobles, though its public access means she mostly tends common citizens, just as a colleague calls her over to help. Overhearing the harried mage Alan, Ennis learns his treatment ran long and he has not finished mixing his medicine despite needing to pick up his child today. Pressing a hand to her chest, the kind-hearted Ennis brightly volunteers to cover for him. Alan hesitates gratefully, protesting that she covered for him last time too, and Ennis warmly waves it off, noting his wife Laura has helped her out plenty as well. Alan bows deeply with apologies and a promise to make it up to her next time, while Ennis cheerfully assures him it is no problem and praises his good work today. Grinding her herbs at the workbench, Ennis reflects that her parents were medical magic users too, and even though theirs was a royal decree marriage they always got along well and were kind to each other. A wistful gleam fills her eye as she dwells on the notion of a marriage bound by royal decree. She explains that partners are chosen based on magical compatibility, family status, and age, all with the goal of increasing the number of magic users and strengthening national power. Watching Sergio from across the infirmary, Ennis recalls treating Lord Loven a few times before, having always figured she would eventually receive a royal decree to marry. Gazing at his sleeping profile, she muses that he struck her as a sincere person, though the two of them have never really interacted deeply. Ennis brightly promises her fellow staff she will come as soon as she finishes mixing her medicine, while the beaming nurses call out to her across the ward. Her co-workers crowd around with warm congratulations on her marriage, and a bashful Ennis waves them off as they insist they only came to celebrate. Ducking her head with a shy smile, Ennis thanks them even as a quiet dread whispers that he might come to think this marriage is a mistake. The scene shifts to the grand estate where a devoted steward, Mr. Rossio, dashes over begging to carry her suitcase, and Ennis, who has spent 2 weeks preparing to move, flustredly insists she will carry it herself. Her friends send her off with fond wishes to build a warm and loving home, laughing that it is all rather emotional, and a teary-eyed Ennis quietly agrees. Bidding farewell to Sergio in the flower-strewn courtyard, Ennis marvels inwardly that she too is finally going to have a family, and he softly murmurs that he sees. 2 weeks before the wedding, life at the mansion has begun as rows of maids bow low and warmly welcome Lady Ennis home. Reminiscing about her old room in an earlier home, Ennis smiles nervously and admits it seems it will take her some time to get used to all this. A maid announces that dinner is ready and asks her to please enjoy her meal, as Ennis glances back toward what she quietly calls her old room. The cheerful maid confirms it is only Ennis dining tonight because the master always returns late, leaving Ennis to wonder uneasily whether she will really be eating all alone. Seated at the vast, empty dining table, Ennis is gently urged to please go ahead and eat first. A small, uncertain silence hangs over the girl as she lifts a single bite to her lips. Chewing slowly, Ennis privately concedes the food is good and supposed to be delicious, yet something about it rings hollow. The scene shifts to Sergio returning by night, telling the exhausted maid that Ennis need not wait up for him since he often comes home around this hour and she should eat first. Later in his study, Sergio evenly asks how the food was, and Ennis admits it was really delicious, though having lived alone she usually prepared her own meals. Sergio evenly asks whether the move went all right and if there is anything else he can do, and a flustered Ennis assures him Rocio helped with everything so he need not lift a finger. Waving her hands earnestly, Ennis reports that between her duties as a medical mage the wedding preparations are coming along with no issue, while Sergio quietly apologizes that he could not accompany her to the meetings. Blushing softly, Ennis insists it is only work and he truly should not worry about it. A small silence settles between them as Sergio stands reading by the starlit window, his back turned to the watching girl. Panic spirals through Ennis's swirling eyes as she frets whether she forgot to report something important. The moment breaks as a knock sounds and someone calls for Lord Sergio, and Sergio calmly bids them wait just a moment. Recognizing the steward, Sergio asks Rocio what it is, and the earnest young man explains he would like the master's opinion about the wedding venue. Rocio invites them inside and warmly asks whether Ennis would care to join them too, prompting her bright, startled yes. Presenting a letter that arrived from the matchmaker, Rocio reads that since it is a marquis family's wedding they would like to recommend a larger chapel. Sergio hands Ennis the paper and evenly tells her to choose whichever she likes, asking what she thinks. Blushing bashfully, Ennis reasons it would be wasteful to spend too much on something so extravagant and shyly declares she is perfectly fine with the modest one. Accepting her choice without protest, Sergio quietly says he sees and decides they will go with that. Watching his retreating back, Ennis reflects on this marriage bound by royal decree and wonders wistfully whether it is like this for everyone. Later in the bedchamber, the two exchange soft, polite goodnights across the vast bed before settling in for sleep. Lying stiffly side by side beneath the covers, the newlyweds sleep apart in the same enormous bed, an uneasy distance between them. Wide awake in the dark, a flustered Ennis silently confesses that she simply cannot sleep. Her mind races with panic as she frets that being this close means she might roll over and disturb his sleep someday, unable to calm her pounding heart. Startled by a sudden movement, Ennis freezes and stammers an apology, terrified she has woken him, as Sergio stirs with a low murmur. Rising up beside her, a bleary Sergio quietly asks whether he woke her. Reaching over to gently tuck the blanket around the wide-eyed girl, Sergio murmurs that it is cold tonight and bids her a soft good night. Ennis lies awake wondering whether Sergio was only being considerate, and something in her dares to ask if it could be more. The scene shifts to morning, and Ennis stirs beside her sleeping husband, marveling quietly at how warm another person's body can be. At work, a colleague greets her brightly, and Ennis vows cheerfully to do her best on what promises to be a busy day. She reflects that she loves this job despite its hard moments and the way it keeps her endlessly busy. Best of all, she gets to see everyone's happy faces, a small luminous reward she treasures. Then a doubt surfaces, and Ennis wonders anxiously whether marriage will mean giving up the work she loves. Mid-thought she notices a herb has already run low, exasperation flickering across her face. A coworker points out that Ennis is meant to be on her lunch break, and she insists she has already eaten and offers pointedly to go restock. As she hurries down the corridor, two women behind her whisper that she is the one about to marry Lord Sergio. The gossip swells into astonishment, one of them marveling that he has finally gotten over someone at last. They gush that the whole thing is impossibly romantic, delighting in a story they clearly adore. The scene slips into the past, where a young Sergio and Princess Grace, his cousin, were quietly in love. Under a pale sky the women recall how Grace married into the kingdom of Cruxio, and the two were torn apart. That, they explain, is why Sergio kept coldly rejecting every arranged meeting for so long. And then, with relish, they promise that this is where the story gets interesting. The scene shifts to the Cruxio border, where a carriage rolls to a halt. Princess Grace beams and calls Sergio's name, telling him tenderly to wait for her as she finally goes home. The scene returns to the wedding, where the priest asks whether the bride vows to love and cherish this person in both health and in sickness. Sergio swears it plainly, naming Ennis Roberts and pledging himself to her in both health and in sickness. The priest turns to Ennis and asks whether she, too, vows to love and cherish this person. Ennis blushes deeply, tears brimming, as she swears her vow in return. Their hands join, rings gleaming, and one day beneath clear skies the two of them hold their wedding ceremony at last. The reception unfolds in a grand hall, nobles gathered in finery among the pillars and tables. Sergio presents his family, explaining that they have exchanged letters but are meeting in person for the first time, and introduces his father Dustin and his mother Garnet. Ennis brightens and gives her name, while Garnet clasps her hands and exclaims tenderly how happy she is to finally have a daughter. Sergio nods toward his brothers, remarking evenly that they are busy chatting and he will introduce them later. A flamboyant guest sweeps in thanking Lord Loven for the invitation, and Sergio returns the thanks with practiced composure. Count Bernard offers his congratulations, and Ennis greets him graciously, saying it is a pleasure to meet him. The men close in around her with talk of magician appointments, expedition posts, and this year's grape harvest, while Ennis stands smiling faintly in the middle of it all. Congratulations rain down from every direction until Ennis, beaming, privately admits she cannot keep up. She thanks a Lady Alice as yet another well-wisher offers congratulations on the marriage. The guests gush that they are honored to have come and that it was such a wonderful ceremony. One insists slyly that surely those rumors about the two of them cannot be true, having heard so much for quite some time. Ennis reels inwardly, dizzy at what it means to marry into a marquis family, marveling that this was supposed to be a modest ceremony. Someone calls Sergio away, and Ennis exhales, privately relieved she at least managed not to mangle anyone's name. Sergio tells her gently that she could sit and take a rest while he goes to chat for a bit, and she agrees. Watching him move so easily among the nobles, Sergio wonders whether this sort of thing is normal for them, while Ennis feels once again that they come from entirely different worlds. Alone in her gown, Ennis wonders anxiously whether she has been behaving appropriately as his wife. A cluster of ladies presses in close around her, and off to the side a hand tightens quietly around something. Cradling a locket with her parents' portrait inside, Ennis whispers to her mother and father that today is the day of her wedding. 3 noble women close in around Ennis, purring that she must be tired and asking sweetly whether she would like a drink. Ennis brightens and thanks them warmly, admitting she was just a little thirsty. They ply her with delicacies, marveling that these are all rare things, wondering if it is really all right to have so much, and offering her a canopy too. Ennis confides innocently that this is her first time at a party, and the ringleader's eyes glint as she notes that commoners cannot even dream of attending such gatherings. Ennis smiles obliviously and gushes that everything is so delicious. The women recoil in mock horror at how she gulped it down, murmuring how unrefined, while Ennis flusters and thanks them earnestly for pointing it out. They coo that this marriage has been quite the talk of the town, one of them tearing into her food with barely veiled malice. The ringleader remarks that she always thought Lord Sergio would remain single, another adding pointedly that, well, you know. Ennis blinks in confusion as they announce it is all because of his first love, Princess Grace. She recalls with dawning unease that Princess Grace was married off to another country 10 years ago. The women feign delight that she did not know, promising with poisonous cheer to enlighten the poor thing. They lean in close and reveal that Sergio and the princess have been in love with each other since they were children. They twist the knife, noting that Sergio, who has always rejected every marriage proposal, is now married to her instead. Ennis stares, aghast, as they lament that of all people it had to be a commoner like her, sighing how pitiful. They press on with false sympathy, calling it too pathetic to bear that she should debut into high society as nothing but a decorative wife. Something cold settles over Ennis, and she admits that even before this she had kept wondering why they arranged a marriage with a commoner like her. The answer lands quietly, and Ennis realizes with a hollow calm that it could have been anyone. The women circle her still, praising how incredibly patient she is and cooing that they truly admire her. Ennis stands frozen behind her composed face, silently agonizing over what she should do and how she should respond. Sergio's voice cuts gently through, excusing them, as Ennis, still spiraling over how to answer without causing conflict, feels his hand close around hers. Sergio slides an arm around Ennis and asks the women smoothly whether he may borrow his wife for a moment, saying he would like to let her take a break. The 3 fluster and scatter, stammering that no, they were the ones keeping her, before fleeing with cries of Lord Sergio. He steers a bewildered Ennis away, murmuring that they should go over here for now. The scene shifts outside beneath a luminous moon, where Ennis breathes in the night air and confides that it feels so nice. Sergio observes that she must be tired since it is her first time in society, and Ennis insists she is honored to have received so many congratulations. his expression cools, and he reminds her evenly that this marriage is a royal command. He tells her plainly that no matter what anyone says he does not care, because she is his wife. The words land, and Ennis flushes as she admits she overheard that earlier conversation. The gossip echoes back through her mind, that Sergio and the princess have always been in love since childhood. She reflects that this must be why he decided to marry someone, that he must be carrying something heavy on his shoulders, and quietly she apologizes for interrupting them earlier. A servant named Rocio arrives to deliver a set of food, having set it aside since she was likely too busy greeting people to eat, and Ennis marvels that it looks delicious. Gazing out at the stars beside him, Ennis admits that honestly she still does not really know what kind of person her husband is. Yet she decides he is not such a cold person after all, or so she thinks. She reasons that he probably did not care who his marriage partner was, and yet he is treating her sincerely all the same. Something warms in her, and she resolves to at least make this marriage a bit of a positive thing for him as she tastes the food and finds it delicious. Turning to him, Ennis falters out that she will do her best, while Sergio blinks and begins an uncertain darling. She rushes on that she knows she has many shortcomings, and Sergio, faintly stunned, simply thanks her as she vows to study etiquette more too. Under the full moon they turn to face each other, something tender and unspoken passing between them. Sergio looks away, pulse unsteady, and murmurs to himself that that was close. He catches her as she stumbles into him, and a mortified Ennis blurts out a flustered apology to her darling. Sergio tells her gently to just call him Sergio, then adds that her dress really suits her. Ennis stares, struck, feeling as though she is seeing that gentle expression for the very first time. The scene shifts to 1 week since the wedding, where Ennis is still living through hectic days at her desk. The tasks pile up around her, thank you gifts and letters to the guests, dance and etiquette review, studying the royal family tree and managing internal affairs. Ennis exhales that she can finally see the end in sight, noting that the thank you letter for Lady Rosa has been arranged. A maid catches her before she can slip away, and Ennis begins that there is still something she would like to finish tidying up when the girl arrives about tonight's dinner. Ennis waves her off breezily, asking whether the maid could just bring the soup to her room. The maid falters, distressed, pointing out that Ennis has only been eating light meals and that, busy as she is, at least for today it isn't good for her health. The maid holds her ground, and Ennis softens, relenting and asking whether she could have dinner after all. The girl lights up and clasps her hands, beaming that of course she can. Left alone, Ennis wilts, wondering whether she ended up making the maid worry about her instead. She admits inwardly that the large dining hall feels uncomfortable and she would rather eat in her own room whenever she can, then resolves that she should try a little harder too. Later in her chambers a door clicks open, and Ennis turns with a start to find Sergio standing in the doorway. He greets her, faintly awkward, with a welcome home, my darling. She thanks him warmly for his hard work training so late. Ennis flusters and apologizes that the darling just slipped out, and Sergio, deadpan, reminds her again to just call him Sergio. Things ease between them, and Ennis reflects that maybe communication about work has started to go more smoothly, while Sergio evenly asks how her day was. A small pride blooms in her, and Ennis wonders whether she really is starting to grow into the role of a proper wife. She reports that she has already taken care of all the letters, holding up the finished stack. Sergio thanks her, remarking that it was a big help. Ennis smiles luminously and tells him she is glad she could be of help, and Sergio assures her it was no trouble at all. He asks evenly whether there are any other issues, and she stammers that no, that is all, that is everything. Sergio turns to go, but Ennis blurts out a flustered and when he asks what it is, ventures that he has seemed so busy lately. Pressing her hands to her chest, she asks him softly, so, please not to push himself too hard. Sergio pauses, a small silence hanging between them, and answers her with a quiet, measured yeah. He tells her he is going to wash his face and asks her not to turn off the lamp yet, and she agrees brightly. Returning later, he leans over the bed and asks in a low voice whether she is asleep, murmuring her name into the dark. Ennis has already drifted off, her hands curled beneath her cheek, her face serene in the lamplight. Sergio watches her sleeping face with an unreadable softness, all his usual coldness gone. He reaches out and gently brushes a strand of hair from her brow, careful not to wake her. His eyes drift to the nightstand, where a sealed envelope rests, and the writing on it names its sender as Grace. He gazes down at his sleeping wife with quiet resignation and tells her he is sorry, that this was not how he meant for things to go. The scene shifts as a new daily routine begins, Ennis juggling both roles as a noble's wife and a medical mage, and admitting that with help from various people she thinks she is finally getting used to it. She had thought marriage would force her to quit her job, but instead she beams that she has finished organizing the patient charts. Sergio tells her it is nothing when she glances over questioningly, then adds that she can do as she likes, and also. Back at the medical ward, Ennis is mid-shift calling for the next person when a flustered colleague gasps, "Wait, Lord Sergio." Sergio arrives supporting an injured guardsman on his shoulder, and Ennis hurriedly ushers them this way, apologizing and asking her to look at his leg. She examines the swollen limb and diagnoses it plainly as a bruise. Kneeling before Sergio, she asks him pointedly to remain still while she treats him. Her healing magic works so fast that the watching guardsman marvels the swelling is going down already, praising her as expected of the captain's wife, and Ennis adds that she will prescribe some ointment later. The healed guardsman springs to his feet in delight, marveling that it does not hurt to stand anymore. Then, brightening, he gestures to Sergio and tells Ennis that the captain is injured too, so please take a look at him. Ennis is startled, but when Sergio insists it is nothing, just a cut, she notes pointedly that he always says he is fine. She catches his hand before he can slip away and firmly tells him excuse me. Examining the wound, she observes gravely that it is a rather deep cut, on his dominant hand no less, and warns it might get infected if left alone. Leaning close, she declares she will treat it right now, and Sergio can only manage a flustered ah. He sinks onto the bed and lets her kneel before him, surrendering his hand to her care. Cradling it, she murmurs softly that his, and the word trails off as Sergio watches her intently. Her healing magic blooms warm between their palms, and Sergio confesses quietly that her magic is so warm. The guardsman returns, mortified, apologizing for intruding and excusing himself, while Ennis flushes and the man snickers a knowing he behind his hand. Sergio's temper flares and he informs the grinning subordinate that he will double his training regimen tomorrow, who howls that it is an abuse of power and tyranny. The scene shifts home, where Ennis droops over her desk pleading to be allowed to rest, reminding herself with a rueful hee-hee that the report is due today. Morning arrives over the grand estate. In the vast dining hall, Sergio remarks that this might be the first time they have eaten a meal together, and Ennis quietly marvels that here, of all places, they finally are. She thinks warmly of the friendly guardsman named Oliver, and when Sergio apologizes for his subordinate being noisy, she insists it was not a bother at all. A companionable silence settles, and Ennis admits shyly that she had imagined royal guards to be far stricter, so his warmth was unexpected. Sergio asks is that so, and she adds with a soft laugh that she would like Oliver, for one, to calm down a little more. Sergio then says that reminds him and asks her evenly whether she has had any troubles lately or felt inconvenienced in any way. He presses that he has heard even when the peddlers come she never buys anything, and gently suggests she not hold back, but Ennis assures him no, everyone has been very kind to her. Flustered, she insists that is not it at all, confessing she simply does not really understand the trends in dresses, while the maid beside her beams among the gowns. Ennis laughs weakly that she thought she already had enough clothes, as expected of a marquis household. Sergio considers this and offers that in that case his mother would know a great deal about such trends, and that he will ask her in a letter. He presses further, asking evenly whether there is anything else, something she wants to do. Brightening, Ennis remembers the injury from earlier and tells him that next time he must come to the infirmary immediately. Sergio deflects with a flustered protest that it was not anything serious. Ennis rounds on him, eyes blazing, and vows that she will not overlook even the smallest injury, even if injuries are part of a knight's duty. Sergio freezes, caught off guard by her fervor, managing only a startled ah. Then, catching herself mid-outburst, she flushes and wonders aloud whether she overstepped a little, adding meekly that underestimating an injury is simply not good. Sergio softens and concedes with quiet amusement that all right, if she says so he will do that, and promises to try to be careful. Later at tea, the attentive butler asks what they would like today, and Sergio answers evenly the usual while Ennis wonders what brand it is. The butler pours and explains it is the family's special blend, apparently unchanged since his grandmother's time. Delighted, Ennis exclaims her aunt would absolutely love it, and Sergio offers warmly that if she likes, he can send some to her family as well. Sergio muses that sharing a meal with someone really is nice, so utterly different from eating alone before. Ennis agrees that she truly enjoyed it, confessing it has been a long time since she sat around a table together like this. Behind his teacup, Sergio quietly tells her that he is glad to hear that. He promises that from now on he will try to come home earlier whenever he can, And Ennis answers with a bright okay. Her days with her husband are so peaceful now, so warm, that Ennis can scarcely believe it. She smiles to herself, luminous and content, hardly recognizing the marriage she once dreaded. Watching her, Sergio thinks that someday. Ennis wonders, wistfully, whether the two of them might become a couple like her mother and father someday, and the tender illusion hangs bright over the quiet cliff of everything still unsaid between them. The scene shifts to the infirmary, where Ennis's two co-workers corner her, sparkling with curiosity, demanding to know what sort of things Lord Sergio talks about in private. They pepper her with questions, wondering aloud what it is like to marry into nobility, where the couple goes on dates, and whether there are fancy dinners every night, while a bewildered Ennis can only manage a ha. They speculate wildly whether the cold-seeming lord is secretly passionate, or perhaps unexpectedly clingy. Ennis answers earnestly with the reality, listing letters and gifts for social connections, a great many meetings, and coordinating the timing of the attendance breaks. Her co-workers wilt, deadpan, muttering that nobles have it tough too, and that it all just sounds like work somehow. Deflecting, Ennis turns the question back and reminds one of them, Sophia, that she said she went on a date the other day. The two friends light up and cheer that it is a huge step forward, as Sophia clasps her flushed cheeks and confesses they finally kissed and her heart was pounding so much. Emboldened, the friends round on Ennis again, urging her to get new underwear and insisting she has to match top and bottom. Ennis sits stunned between them, the words underwear and K-kiss echoing dumbly through her mind. Her eyes go wide as saucers as it dawns on her that she has been so busy she completely forgot, and that she really needs to think about these things too. Undeterred, the friends press what about her, since she is a newlywed after all, and Ennis flusters out a strangled while one of them scolds that geez, they should stop asking, it is rude. The teasing dissolves into laughter as one friend promises Emma will meet someone good right away, and Emma grumbles that hearing all this is making her want a boyfriend too. The scene shifts home that night, where Ennis sits alone on the great bed and tells herself she should get to sleep soon. Curling up with her book, she admits with quiet relief that she is glad Lord Sergio is on night patrol tonight. In the dark she confesses she is still not mentally prepared after that conversation at lunch. Morning arrives and Ennis stirs, half dreaming, noticing groggily that something is heavy and warm, as Sergio breathes a low beside her. Her eyes fly open to find Sergio home from patrol and fast asleep with his arms wrapped around her, and she shrieks inwardly, "Oh Lord Sergio." She freezes, face burning, as his sleeping face hovers a breath away, wailing to herself that this is too close, too close. Ennis reels that Lord Sergio came back, but cannot fathom why he is holding her like this, her whole face going hot. Sergio only murmurs and nestles closer, and Ennis, trapped and scarlet, resolves with mounting desperation that if she can somehow move his arm. Ennis studies his sleeping face and notices the faint dark circles beneath his eyes, concluding he must be truly exhausted. She wants to let him keep sleeping, but held fast in his arms she has no way to slip free. Her face flames as she frets that the situation is, a little too much to bear. Sergio stirs awake against her, and Ennis, mortified, laments that she has ended up waking him and stammers a small good morning. He does not release her, only murmurs drowsily that it is still too early to get up and draws her closer. Half asleep, he sighs into her hair for just a little longer. Ennis short-circuits entirely, wailing inwardly that his voice is far too seductive and that he even smells nice, before catching herself that no, that is not the point. Crimson and trembling, she pleads that Sergio-sama, if this keeps up, her heart is going to burst. For a suspended moment his lips brush impossibly near hers, the cherry blossoms drifting around them. Then Sergio wakes fully and jerks back, apologizing that he acted on impulse while half asleep, then admitting that is just an excuse and he is sorry he startled her. Ennis presses her hands to her cheeks and confesses shyly that it is true she was surprised, but in fact it was not unpleasant. Sergio flushes and beats a hasty retreat, declaring he will go cool his head, while Ennis flusters after him that it is not like that. She catches his sleeve before he can flee and, gathering her courage, ventures that earlier she was only startled, and so, please, could they continue next time? Sergio meets her eyes, the blossoms falling between them, and answers softly, next time then, alright. The scene shifts as Ennis walks home from work, co-workers waving her off with a cheerful good work, while she agonizes over exactly when next time is supposed to be, and whether that was all far too bold. Steeling herself, she reasons that they are married, after all. Approaching the mansion, she starts to greet someone with a small only to falter as an unfamiliar figure turns with a sharp, unreadable smile. Sergio emerges through the doors behind her, his expression cooling as he takes in the newcomer. The stranger is a dazzling, tearful woman who flings her arms wide and cries out his name, Sergio. She embraces him tenderly, marveling that he has grown so tall and saying how she missed him and hoped he was well, as Ennis looks on, and the warm homecoming curdles with the sinking certainty of exactly who this radiant woman must be. Grace tells Sergio warmly that welcome back. It must have been hard, and how relieved she is that he made it home safely. An attendant explains that beyond here lies the princess's palace, and Grace apologizes sweetly for getting lost after so long away, thanking the woman for kindly showing the way. Ennis freezes at the sight, and Grace cries out Sergio's name with tearful delight as a ring glints on his outstretched hand. The pair stand framed in the doorway, and Ennis watches from the threshold with a stunned, sinking stillness. The scene shifts to a memory of a younger Sergio embracing Grace before a wall of books, vowing that from now on he will protect her. Grace clings to him tenderly against the candlelit dark, her small hand pressed to his and a soft smile on her lips. Ennis stands alone beneath a starless black, clutching her jacket to her chest, wide-eyed and trembling with dawning dread. The two women meet across the light, and Ennis breathes the name Grace, aghast, as the radiant stranger keeps her arms wound possessively around Sergio. Ennis dips into a stiff, hollow curtsy, her face hidden, her composure held together by nothing but manners. Sergio tells Grace he is heading back for now, and Ennis reels, silently asking what on earth just happened as the world seems to dissolve around her. Grace clicks her tongue in private annoyance, then explains with poisonous sweetness that she must go, because after all she has to explain the situation to his wife too. Sergio insists brightly that from now on they will always be together, and Grace agrees that yes, he is absolutely right. He takes his leave with a casual see you later, and Grace waves him off with a demure little smile that does not reach her eyes. An older attendant excuses herself as she approaches, and Grace rings a small bell by the window, her sweetness curdling the moment his back is turned. The attendant praises Grace, saying everything went just as planned and she did well, and Grace purrs that it is all thanks to this glowing magical tool pinched between her fingers. Grace bursts into gleeful laughter, crowing that the stupid look on that woman's face earlier was seriously hilarious. The mask slips fully now as Grace sneers that the commoner is so stupid, acting as though she is not beneath them, and the attendant agrees that yes, she is absolutely right. Grace's eyes narrow to something cold and venomous as she vows that she will never forgive that woman for seducing her Sergio. Reclining in triumph, Grace declares that she simply has to make the commoner understand her place, and asks with a saccharine smile, isn't that right? The scene shifts to Ennis fleeing through the moonlit town, breathless and stumbling, as an unseen voice murmurs that it shall be as Her Highness commands. Ennis slumps against the cold stone of an archway, breathless, silently turning the name Grace over in her mind. Wide-eyed and flushed, she asks herself in disbelief whether that truly was Princess Grace. The memory of the attendant's words returns, that the two have loved each other since childhood, and that Grace is the one Lord Sergio has always longed for. Yet a puzzled thought surfaces, wondering why Grace is here at all when she should have been married off to another country 10 years ago. Walking the empty streets, Ennis reasons hopefully that perhaps the princess has only returned on official business. But her own face darkens, and she quietly answers her own question with a flat, defeated no. The image of the two embracing rises again, and she admits to herself that it plainly did not come off as anything so formal as official business. Clutching her jacket to her chest, Ennis concludes with aching resignation that the two of them really did look perfect together. She hurries onward, fretting that she needs to return to the palace, lamenting that she asked Romeo to arrange a carriage yet somehow walked the whole way into town. Passing a flower shop, she overhears townsfolk exclaiming in astonishment that the rumor must be true, that Princess Grace has actually returned. The scene shifts as villagers gossip in a sunlit shop, one asking in bewilderment why a woman so lovely would ever go through a divorce. Others lament how awful it is, murmuring that they heard the princess was constantly bullied by the queen and the other consorts abroad. Ennis stands frozen among them, wand in hand, absorbing every word with the dull realization that this is what happened. Her expression cracks with sympathy as she thinks that Princess Grace must still be suffering even now. Then a colder logic assembles itself, that Lord Sergio and the princess are still in love, and that the princess has divorced and come home, until she stops short with a startled wait a second. Beneath a bridal ribbon, the plain fact intrudes that Lord Sergio is, after all, married to her. Ennis claps a hand to her mouth, horror dawning as she wonders whether she is the one tearing the two of them apart. An elderly florist snaps her out of it, asking kindly whether the young miss is here to buy something. Flustered and scarlet, Ennis stammers an apology and blurts that she will come back another time as she flees. The scene shifts to a quiet bath, where Ennis sinks into the warm water, her mind still churning even as she murmurs how nice it feels. Sinking deeper into the water, Ennis admits she has calmed down a little, but only a little. Her composure frays again as she confesses that no matter how she thinks about it, she cannot help feeling she is only in the way. She spirals into what-ifs, imagining that if Her Highness had returned to the country even a month or two sooner. The thought continues that if news of the divorce had reached Lord Sergio's ears in time. She pictures the carriage arriving and concludes bitterly that the two of them would have ended up together without any trouble at all. Toweled and troubled before a mirror, Ennis frets over what face she is even supposed to make when she next sees Lord Sergio, wondering how things ended up like this. She drifts toward her room, sighing that she does not think she will manage to sleep tonight, admitting that dwelling on it further will not help. The scene shifts as she rounds a corner and freezes, stunned to find Sergio home, stammering why he is here as he answers flatly that he has just gotten back. Flustered, she apologizes, and Sergio explains that he heard she would not be returning today, then adds that the situation has changed. He begins to broach the subject of the princess, and Ennis, blushing furiously, cuts in that she sees, mortified that she showed him such an improper sight earlier. Both stumble toward retreat, and as Ennis turns away, Sergio quietly says her name. Cherry blossoms drift between them as Sergio leans close and gently asks whether something has happened. Ennis averts her eyes and insists in a small voice that it is really nothing. Sergio tells her softly that he does not want her to push herself, because she is always giving everything her all. He adds, with unexpected tenderness, that if anything ever happens she should rely on him. The two lock eyes amid falling petals, and Ennis thinks to herself that he is truly a kind person, someone who deserves to be happy. The scene shifts to a later night as Sergio appears at her door, saying he came back because there is something he wants to tell her, asking if she has a moment. Ennis assures him she does, and he apologizes for calling on her at such a late hour as she flusters that she was not about to fall asleep anyway. Over steaming tea, Sergio reveals the truth, that Princess Grace has returned to the country, and that he has suddenly been assigned to guard duty. Ennis feigns ignorance, admitting shyly that the princess's return was the talk of the whole town, yet claiming with a nervous smile that she cannot say she saw her today. Sergio recounts the princess's history, that she returned home divorced for bearing no child in 10 years, caught in factional struggles the moment she married and treated coldly throughout. He explains that because Grace is his cousin, the court thought a familiar face would reassure her, and that by the king's own decision his squad was chosen to guard a woman in so precarious a position. Sergio apologizes quietly, warning that there will now be more night patrols and overnight duties and more days he cannot come home, as Ennis murmurs a hollow "I see." He notices her stiffness and asks what is wrong, then rises to announce that he has to leave again that very night. Ennis manages only a faltering half-word as he departs, her mind reeling with the frantic thought of what she should possibly do. The scene shifts a week onward, and Ennis gazes out an infirmary window realizing that Sergio has not come home even once, reasoning it must be a terribly important mission. Her expression clouds as she concludes that he is surely worried about the princess and must want to stay by her side every moment. Resolved, Ennis buries herself in library books, looking into the divorce procedures for a royal command marriage while an unseen hand grinds herbs in a mortar. Lost in thought at her desk, she fails to hear her co-worker until the woman greets Mrs. Thompson and Ennis startles at her own name being called. The co-worker observes that Ennis does not look well and asks whether something happened, and Ennis deflects that she was merely lost in thought. Mrs. Thompson gently notes that the report is full of omissions and that this is not the first time Ennis has slipped up lately, leaving Ennis stunned and echoing a small really. Ennis apologizes in a fluster and promises to rewrite it at once, and the kindly woman reassures her that it is not urgent so she should not worry. Mrs. Thompson looks at her with warm concern and offers that if Ennis is struggling she is always happy to listen. She brightens the mood, suggesting Ennis finish for the day, then asks one small favor afterward as Ennis flushes and thanks her sincerely. Handing over a sealed permission slip, Mrs. Thompson asks Ennis to go to the Royal Palace Supply Office and collect the herbs listed within, and Ennis answers that she understands. The scene shifts to Ennis crossing the palace grounds, still turning over the divorce conditions for a royal decree marriage that she looked into. The stark rule surfaces in her mind, illustrated by a swaddled newborn, that a divorce is not permitted unless 2 years have passed or a child has been born. Her face falls into bleak resignation as she realizes that either choice open to her will surely wound the princess. Pausing beneath a leafy archway, Ennis sighs, and nearby a guard's braid turns at the faint sound with a puzzled ahem. From a distance the guard watches her drift toward a bench, wondering to a companion whether something has happened to that lady. Ennis approaches the slumped figure on the bench, hesitantly asking whether the lady is all right. The woman lifts her head, and Ennis freezes with dawning recognition as the radiant face resolves into Princess Grace. Flustered, Ennis snaps into a hasty apology from a few steps away, blurting that she is sorry for her rudeness. Recovering her nerve, Ennis explains that she is a medical mage and asks, "Forgive me," whether the princess is feeling unwell, as Grace's expression curdles into something sly. Grace's eyes narrow with cold contempt as she coos that Ennis will only make her dirty and asks whether she would mind not touching her. Ennis flinches, and Grace's tone flips to honeyed sweetness as she asks, "Hey you," whether she is Sergio's wife, to which Ennis answers a small yes. Cheek propped on her hand, Grace smiles beatifically and remarks that Sergio is kind, isn't he? Ennis agrees shyly, and Grace muses that he has always been so kind it is almost too much, calling him a very sincere man. Grace leans in, and her eyes turn wide and pitiless as she sneers that Ennis is not seriously under the delusion that she is truly loved, is she? Ennis stammers that of course not, and Grace purrs a poisonous "well then, that is good to hear." The two women lock eyes at close range, and Grace's lips curl as she asks whether Ennis knows exactly what she must do. Grace's smile turns luminous and cruel as she declares she can make Sergio happy, insisting everyone wants to marry the one they love, and that the person making him suffer is Ennis. The scene shifts to Sergio striding through the palace grounds, fretting that Grace has slipped out again and wondering just where she has gone. He walks on with visible weariness, thinking that it has already been 2 weeks since he last saw Ennis, and that at this rate he might not make it home again today either. His thoughts soften with longing as he wishes he could go back, if only to gather his things just once. Sergio halts abruptly, his ear catching something, and thinks that he hears voices. Peering toward a balcony above, he spots Grace and wonders why she is in a place like that, and whether she is with someone. He rounds the corner into view, and a bright, false cheer rings out as Grace turns and announces she came to pick Ennis up, saying it is about time for her medicine, while Ennis breathes her name in shock. Sergio arrives at the foot of the steps, and both women turn as Ennis softly speaks his name, Lord Sergio. The scene shifts to a light-hearted bonus strip of the Roberts household at night, where a weary Sergio returns and murmurs that he is back, as a startled attendant asks Rocio what is wrong. Wilhelm cries out that Lady Ennis is in trouble, his composure shattered as he grips Sergio's arm. Sergio's eye goes wide with dread as he demands to know what happened to Ennis. The scene shifts to a lighter memory, where the maids beam and welcome Lord Sergio home as young Ennis blissfully sweeps the floor. The manservant apologizes with a strained smile, explaining aghast that there were many irregularities and they truly tried to stop her. And so, under a pale crescent moon, Ennis was formally banned from doing housework, a tiny chibi wailing in protest while Sergio wryly admits it was not bad. The scene returns to the palace grounds, where Sergio faces the two women and asks with measured suspicion why they are both here. Grace flings herself into his arms crying his name, while a short distance off Ennis stammers helplessly that she was only, well. Sergio holds the clinging princess at arm's length and asks Ennis pointedly whether she had come looking for him. Cradling Grace against him, Sergio turns cold and demands to know why she sneaked out of the royal palace. Grace whimpers with mock innocence that she left because Sergio wandered off somewhere, and he flatly corrects her that it was merely a shift change. Then she nuzzles closer, sighing sweetly that anyway, she is simply glad he came to get her. Ennis calls out to Grace as an attendant rushes in, and Sergio startles at the sight of the princess suddenly limp in his arms. Grace clutches her chest and breathes faintly that it feels tight, pleading to be carried to bed. Ennis steps forward with a healer's instinct, asking anxiously if the princess is all right and offering emergency treatment. Ennis extends a luminous, glowing hand, and Grace's eyes fly open in startled disbelief. The princess freezes, her pupils shrinking as a stunned haar escapes her. Grace recoils violently and thrusts out a warning finger, shrieking at Ennis not to come any closer. Flushed and trembling, the princess snaps with venom that she does not want to be treated by someone like her. Sergio's gaze sharpens as he tells Grace evenly that Ennis is an excellent medical mage, then leans in with quiet steel, urging her please not to say something like that. The scene shifts as a weary attendant escorts the exhausted princess away, while Ennis pledges with soft resignation to escort her back to the princess palace. Sergio tells Ennis there is something he wants to discuss, mentioning that they will be leaving tomorrow, and she brightly answers that she will be waiting. Sergio walks off with the clinging princess as Ennis watches their retreating figures from behind a curtain of long hair. Ennis muses with quiet ache that they look good together, so it is no wonder everyone talks about them. Ennis hurries away, reminding herself that she must quickly go pick up the medicinal herbs Mrs. Thompson requested. Staring at her own hands, Ennis puzzles over what that strange sensation just now was, certain she felt magic even though the princess is no magic bearer. The princess turns away resolutely, deciding she will try looking into it a little tomorrow. The scene shifts to the vast, silent chamber of the royal library. Ennis pores over the texts, murmuring that this medicine has no such side effects either, before concluding no, that is not it. Slumped over her books, Ennis confirms grimly that as she thought, there are no known cases of magic manifesting after birth. Ennis reasons that if Her Highness were truly a magic bearer, then a formal engagement with Lord Sergio should have been arranged long ago. What unsettles Ennis most is that she sensed pure malice from that magic, as if. The page falls to black as Ennis finishes the thought, that it was almost like a curse. Ennis reluctantly decides to stop there for today, then freezes wide-eyed and breathes no way as a sudden realization strikes her. Ennis composes herself with a faint blush, recalling that Lord Sergio will return home tonight, admitting it will be a little awkward though. The scene shifts to Grace, who murmurs that she is happy to see Lord Sergio again after so long, as he stiffly apologizes for the harsh things she said yesterday. Grace waves it off with practiced grace, insisting no, she was the one who tried to touch her without permission. The princess folds her arms and concedes she knows it is no excuse, but Ennis is simply not the kind of person who normally says such things. Grace explains that Ennis's health has been unstable ever since, all because of the 10 years she spent in the kingdom of Cruxio. The scene returns home, where Ennis hesitantly speaks Lord Sergio's name to his silent, waiting back. Ennis confides that when she went to heal the princess, there was something that had been bothering her. Ennis explains that from Her Highness she felt magic, no, rather, she sensed the unmistakable presence of a curse. Sergio lifts his hand and frowns, echoing a curse in disbelief, reasoning that he is a magic bearer too and should at least sense some discomfort if something were wrong. Ennis realizes with a start that back then she used detection magic meant for medical spells, which is probably why she noticed it. The princess presses on with quiet conviction, deducing that if Her Highness's poor health is caused by a curse, then breaking it might restore her condition. Sergio's face breaks into a startled, luminous smile as Ennis gasps really in dawning hope. He tells her warmly that no, she has helped him a lot, though it is still just a theory, and only if they can find a way to lift the curse, while a flustered Ennis stammers that he is far too close. Grace's serene smile masks something colder as she observes that Ennis really does want to cure her, while at home Sergio leans in murmuring now finally. Sergio beams that he will try looking for something too, and Ennis softly answers yeah, before he adds with open affection that she really is. He tells her tenderly that she is always thinking about others. The scene tilts and blurs as he draws unmistakably near. Sergio leans over Ennis on the settee, their faces a breath apart beneath the soft glow. Their eyes lock and their lips nearly meet in trembling silence. Both pull back flushed and breathless, the moment fracturing into shy, panting quiet. Sergio kneels apart from her and apologizes, admitting with resignation that he rushed ahead again. Ennis fumbles for words with a scarlet face, privately reeling that he said he was sorry, but she did not hate it at all. Sergio tells her evenly that she does not have to force herself, while Ennis panics that she must clear up this misunderstanding, terrified that if she does they might end up going even further than kissing. Sergio withdraws his hand and confesses that it is because he does not want to hurt her, leaving Ennis to blink a bewildered huh. The two settle close together amid the lilies, the tension softening into something gentler. Sergio gazes down at her and vows that as for him, he will wait as long as it takes, until the very moment she truly wants to. Ennis stares up at him with wide, glistening eyes, breathing his name, Sergio-sama. Ennis gathers her courage and tells him quietly that she is not forcing herself, their fingers intertwining in the dim light. She confesses with luminous sincerity that she has never once thought of it as unpleasant, that everything he does to her, all of the kisses. He asks softly if she truly means it, and she stammers a trembling yes, really. Sergio murmurs that he never imagined being wanted by her could make him this happy, leaving Ennis to blink a startled huh. He admits with rare vulnerability that even though he had planned to wait forever, something in him has shifted. Sergio leans over her and confesses that he found himself thinking he does not want to stop anymore. He breathes that he is going to hold her now, drawing her close amid the scattered petals. Ennis's eyes shimmer as she answers yes, please hold me. She immediately buries her face in her hands, blurting that she is sorry for being so shameless, and he tells her gently that no, it is the opposite. Sergio flushes and admits that when she says things like that so adorably, it becomes terribly hard to resist. Ennis reels in disbelief that he is making that kind of face at her. She marvels breathlessly at his eyes, at the heat in that gaze. The desire to touch him and be held overflows from within her, spilling past every restraint. Ennis whispers his name uncertainly, and Sergio tells her to call him Sergio, just his name, no honorifics. He pulls her in and murmurs against her to beg him for more. The scene shifts to the medical ward, where Ennis stands distracted and far away while her colleagues work around her. Alone at her desk, pen trembling, Ennis frets over what she should do, confessing that when she is alone she keeps remembering what happened yesterday. She presses on with her work, flushing as she admits the sensation is still lingering. The scene cuts between a dazed, blushing Ennis and Sergio himself, who gazes into the distance and murmurs her name, Ennis. Ennis reflects that even though she knew it was for the sake of having a child, in that moment it felt like they were truly husband and wife, and that quietly made her happy. The scene shifts back to the palace, where Grace's sweet smile turns venomous as she declares that the one causing Sergio pain is Ennis herself. Grace's words echo cruelly in Ennis's mind, insisting that Lord Sergio already has the princess, and that Ennis must not wish to stay like this with him. Ennis clutches a cushion and tells herself she wants to live with Lord Sergio and their child, resolving to ask him so they can live together, if only she truly could be blessed with a child. Ennis steels herself with quiet resolve, vowing to do what she can so that the princess and Lord Sergio can both be happy. Back at the ward, Ennis muses that first she needs a clue about the princess's curse. She admits with a trace of discouragement that she has been searching in hopes of helping Lord Sergio, but so far, nothing. Ennis suddenly brightens, a thought striking her as she gasps that is right. Grinding herbs in a mortar, she realizes with rising hope that she might even be able to help. Ennis holds up a finished vial triumphantly and beams that it is done. The scene shifts to the palace door, where Ennis meets Sergio and, flanked by a smiling attendant, asks him to give this to the princess on his behalf. She calls out his name brightly, and Sergio startles, apologizing that he was just about to knock. The scene cuts to the ward, where Sergio explains he is on break and asks if he may come in, wondering if something is wrong and what about today's work, while a flustered Ennis manages a yes. Her colleague teases that Ennis always gets so worked up over other people, and Ennis insists faintly that she is fine. Sergio confesses with lowered eyes that he acted impulsively and so immaturely yesterday, murmuring that he is sorry. He rubs the back of his neck and admits it is just that she was so, before finishing quietly that she was cute. Ennis reels behind her hair, protesting no way, certain that yesterday he was only being kind out of obligation, but if he says it like that. Ennis snaps back to the present and blurts that she made some medicine, and Sergio echoes medicine in surprise. She explains she tried making it to match the princess's symptoms, admitting she still does not know what kind of curse it is, and asks him to please give it to the princess on her behalf, hoping it might help her feel a little better. Sergio cradles the small vial and smiles warmly, telling her he understands and thanks her. Ennis beams with flushed relief that it is not at all a bother, vowing brightly that she will look more into the curse too. Ennis watches Sergio walk away with the princess and tells herself quietly that she is only a nuisance to the two of them, yet resolves to do what she can for them both. The scene shifts to the palace, where Grace hurls her shattered belongings and rages about that woman, while her attendant sighs that the princess still thinks far too highly of herself despite the recent warning. Grace smiles coldly and wonders aloud whether there is not something she can do about the mage still shamelessly hanging around Sergio as though she owns the place. Composed once more, Grace orders the servant to let him in, and an elderly maid bows with quiet deference and assures her that all is arranged just as she wishes. Grace greets Sergio warmly as he apologizes for his lateness, and she tells him sweetly that she is only glad he came at all. Sergio presents a delicate vial and explains that it is medicine Ennis prescribed specifically for the princess's symptoms. He praises Ennis with unguarded sincerity as a truly excellent mage, full of compassion and beloved by many, while Grace watches with a flat little humph. Behind her veil of composure Grace agrees that yes, with such exceptional help, her condition will surely improve. Her eyes glint with private malice as she promises she will gratefully take the medicine. Sergio asks how it is, and Grace lifts the vial to her lips with a strange, deliberate calm. The bottle tumbles from her grasp and she doubles over, coughing and gasping that it hurts, that something is terribly wrong. Grace reaches out desperately and cries for someone named Gio to help her, while the servant and Sergio recoil in alarm and call the princess's name. Sergio catches her collapsing frame and shouts her name in panic as she claws toward an outstretched hand. Guards rush in demanding to know what happened, and the attendant wails that the princess has fallen because of that strange medicine. Sergio, cradling Grace, orders them to lead the way, insisting frantically that they must get her to a bed at once. A physician examines the resting princess and reassures the room that she merely suffered a hyperventilation episode and will recover with rest. Sergio insists that Ennis would never do such a thing, but the attendant rounds on him tearfully, blaming the medicine and calling the mage cruel. He warns her sharply not to jump to conclusions, yet the attendant only laments how tragic it is that the princess was jealous of the woman close to Lord Sergio. Grace stirs at last, murmuring faintly for Gio, her eyes fluttering as she asks whether he is there. Sergio clasps her hand with visible relief and whispers thank goodness, while the attendant and physician cry out for their princess. Grace clings to Sergio's hand and confesses tearfully that she is frightened of falling ill again, pleading with Gio to stay by her side a little longer. Sergio hesitates at the door as the attendant urges him on, then relents with a soft okay while Grace nestles against a maid, murmuring how happy she is. The scene shifts to the manor, where the servants whisper in disbelief that the lady of the house could do something so terrible, one asking whether the others have heard about Lady Grace. Sergio reads a report scrawled with rumors and marvels darkly that it would stir such a commotion. Since then, Grace's maids have been fanning out everywhere, spreading the tale that the princess worsened because of Ennis, and Sergio berates himself for having been so naive. Pressing a hand to his brow, he admits it is likely impossible for him alone to stop the rumors from spreading. The scene shifts to Grace, gazing wistfully among the flowers and wondering when she will be allowed to return to his side after finally getting to see him again. Back at his desk, Sergio broods that he still has not properly told Ennis how he feels, and yet, his thoughts drift to the memory of Grace accepting him back then, her sleeping face soft against the pillows. He steels himself with quiet resolve, vowing to finish this mission and return to Ennis as soon as he possibly can. The scene shifts to the palace, where the attendant reports with cold efficiency that the rumors have been spread effectively and the medicine bottle recovered. Grace lounges luxuriously and purrs a satisfied heh, praising the woman for her good work. Surveying the ruin she has staged, Grace boasts that her acting was not half bad and that she devised a way to disgrace that woman on the spot. Her eyes gleam with venomous triumph as she declares that with this, that woman will finally learn her place. The scene shifts to Ennis at the manor, where a breathless maid bursts in crying that something awful has happened and calls out her name in alarm. The frantic servant waves off Ennis's calm question of whether something is wrong, insisting that is not the issue here at all. The world narrows to Ennis's widening eye as the maid delivers the blow that she is being suspected of poisoning the princess. Ennis can only manage a stunned huh, while a shadowed Grace smiles in cruel satisfaction on the far side of the panel. Pressing a trembling hand to her chest, Ennis repeats the impossible words in disbelief, that she is a suspect. The scene closes on a grim messenger stating plainly that there is a rumor she gave poison to the princess, leaving Ennis ensnared in a trap she never saw coming. Ennis's eyes go wide with dawning horror as she recoils at the word poison, dreading that it could be that very medicine. The maid insists she of course knows the truth, yet admits that while Ennis did make the medicine, the thought of poison is unbearable. Ennis reels in disbelief, murmuring no way, while the maid confesses grimly that there are people who genuinely believe the rumors. The scene shifts to a sharp-eyed man in formal dress who offers a crisp "excuse me," and a startled servant gasps his name, Mr. Rocio. Rocio announces with composed formality that he has come to escort Lady Ennis, leaving her bewildered as to why. He explains that there is a possibility she might be in danger, and that it would be best for her to stay at Lord Sergio's family estate. Ennis falters that someone like her staying at the marquis residence seems unthinkable, while the maids cheerfully urge her to hurry up and go. The two maids press in warmly, insisting there is no need to hold back since she is Lord Sergio's wife after all. Rocio adds pointedly that the people of the marquis household have said they would be more than happy to have her. The maids shoo her off with affectionate exasperation, chorusing that honestly she should just hurry up and go while she stammers a flustered protest. The scene shifts to the carriage, where Ennis sits beside a companion and wonders wearily how it ever came to this. Her thoughts drift to the wedding, recalling how she greeted Sergio's father-in-law and mother-in-law only in passing. Her gloved hand tightens in her lap as she berates herself that all of this trouble is because of her. Ennis lowers her gaze in quiet shame, lamenting that she has ended up troubling even the marquis' household. The carriage rolls to a halt and the attendant chirps a bright yes when told they will be arriving shortly. The scene shifts as Ennis steps down, gazing up in awe that this grand place is Lord Sergio's family home, while a warm voice calls out how glad they are she came. A gracious noblewoman beams down and greets her, waving off the formal greetings and urging Lady Garnet to come inside quickly. Ennis stammers her flustered thanks as the cheerful hostess declares it the perfect time, coos affectionately over Ennis John. The lady twirls before a display of gowns, insisting they change Ennis's clothes first and promising a dress that would look perfect on her. Overwhelmed and shrinking back, Ennis protests that she is fine as she is, while the hostess ignores every refusal and presses a dress into her hands, asking eagerly whether she prefers blue or purple. The gracious noblewoman drapes an arm around a blushing Ennis and declares warmly that it is precisely times like these when a lady must look her very best. The marquise beams radiantly that she simply wants to show Ennis off to Sergio, while two maids clasp their hands and swoon that she is far too cute. Settled into an opulent tea room, the marquise sighs happily that she is delighted to share tea with Ennis, confessing that her house is overrun with boys. The mother fans herself and explains with fond exasperation that an all-male household leaves the atmosphere at home rather rough around the edges. That, she adds tenderly, is exactly why she is so overjoyed to have gained another daughter like this. The marquise smiles and urges Ennis not to be so stiff, inviting her to treat her as a real mother, while Ennis can only stammer a flustered reply. Ennis marvels inwardly that her mother-in-law is the king's own half-sister and a former princess, murmuring a breathless thank you. Watching the luminous woman sip her tea, Ennis wonders privately whether every member of the royal family is quite this beautiful. The maids gaze up starry-eyed and agree that yes, every single one of them is. Across the vast table, the marquise asks lightly whether Sergio has been treating Ennis kindly. Ennis lowers her eyes and answers softly that yes, Lord Sergio has truly been very kind to her. The marquise studies that fragile expression and remarks pointedly that Sergio is a failure as a husband to leave his new wife wearing such a face, prompting Ennis to protest that it isn't true. The mother insists gently that it is indeed true, and coaxes her to tell her mother-in-law exactly what is troubling her. Ennis shrinks back and mumbles that it is nothing at all, only for the marquise to chide her that lies are not becoming. The two women sit at opposite ends of the long table as the marquise presses again, asking simply what happened. Ennis hesitates, wondering with a trembling heart whether she can really say it aloud. At last she clenches her fists and begins that the truth is. The marquise tilts her head and asks why, as Ennis confesses that she feels she can no longer continue being married to Lord Sergio like this. Ennis explains quietly that this marriage was only by royal decree, and that there is, as her mother-in-law surely already knows, someone Sergio truly loves. Tears gather in her eyes as she whispers that she cannot bear to see Sergio looking so pained, that she wants him to be with someone he genuinely cares for and to find his happiness with her. Tears brimming, Ennis admits with quiet resignation that she is prepared for divorce, murmuring that Sergio has always faced her so sincerely and is such a kind person that she thought they had to have children soon. The marquise strokes her chin thoughtfully and observes that marriage and divorce are matters for the two of them, insisting they need to sit down and talk it over properly, while Ennis frets that he has lately been too busy to even come home. Ennis waves her hands and protests that she couldn't possibly trouble him while he's doing such important work, prompting the marquise to suggest brightly what about a letter, though Ennis balks that she couldn't dream of it. The marquise hums to herself in consideration as Ennis quietly relents and agrees, all right. The mother turns with a sly wink and a raised finger, telling Ennis with sparkling confidence to simply leave it all to her. Ennis blinks, utterly bewildered, and can only manage a small huh. The scene shifts to the palace, where a gloved hand slides an envelope across a desk and someone announces that here, this is the investigation result. Studying the report, one man notes that so it really is a curse and seems to be quite a troublesome type, while a grateful figure bows his thanks nearby. Sergio thanks his companion for the trouble and calls it a great help, and the other man tells him not to worry, that he mustn't leave the princess's side, then asks pointedly what he plans to do next. Gazing up at a distant castle, Sergio explains that he has heard there is a renowned sage in the kingdom of Hiram, and that since their country has contact with a frontier count there, he will send a letter to establish a connection. Ennis's uncle wonders aloud whether something like that is even possible, and the companion admits he can't say for certain. Sergio's eyes harden with resolve as he declares that he will do whatever it takes to end this situation. The other man gestures knowingly and remarks that this is simply the kind of guy Sergio is. Just then a hairpin-adorned figure at the doorway cries out sharply for Sergio. The marquis stands luminous in the light, and an astonished voice gasps out "Mother." The mother greets them airily with an "Oh my," asking whether they were in the middle of a conversation, and the companion smooths it over that no, they've just finished and he'll excuse himself. Sergio turns to her in visible alarm, stammering to ask why his mother is here and whether something has happened to Ennis. The marquis fixes him with a fierce glare and snaps that it is most certainly not merely something. Rounding on her son, she demands to know what exactly he is planning to do about Ennis. Back at the estate, the marquis presses him that she knows he is busy with work, but points out flatly that he hasn't been properly talking with his wife, as a baffled Sergio asks what she means. The marquis demands whether he understands that Ennis John is feeling anxious, and Sergio, faltering, confesses that he does regret not speaking with her directly, before beginning to explain that the thing is. Sergio insists that he has, in fact, been communicating with her all along through letters. The marquise's eyes narrow sharply as she counters that Ennis John told her she hasn't received a single letter, asking pointedly whether that is really so. The blood drains from Sergio's face as he stares at the paper in his hand, stammering what that could mean and whether the letters truly never reached her. The marquise explains that Ennis seemed to be holding back, keeping quiet so as not to trouble him while he was busy. She turns away and muses that he has such a sweet and devoted new wife, and yet he is such a disappointing husband, and to think he might even have someone else. Sergio bolts upright and cries out that he has no such person, that the only one he cares for is Ennis. The marquise softens with quiet satisfaction and murmurs that she understands. Reaching up to touch his arm, she tells him warmly that she knows he simply isn't the kind of person to do such a thing, that it isn't in his nature. She explains that she came to the castle today to speak directly with his brother, adding lightly that she is his mother, after all. Closing her eyes, the marquise remarks that this is probably just Grace being selfish again, and declares that he shall be relieved of his duties. Sergio lunges after her with an outstretched hand, crying for his mother to please wait. The marquise turns back, and Sergio protests haltingly that there should surely be other knights they can trust. The mother regards him with a knowing smile and concedes that it's true the king dotes on his daughter, so she doesn't know how much her words will resonate with him. Just then a composed voice interrupts with an "excuse me," as the marquise wheels around to demand whether it is really worth making his new bride cry. A palace guard appears at the tall doors and announces that His Majesty the King is calling for Lord Sergio. Sergio bows his head and answers that he understands and will go right away. Pausing, he turns to her and says quietly that mother, he will explain things to His Majesty himself. His gaze steadies with resolve as he asks whether he might trouble her to tell Ennis just one thing. The marquise listens as Sergio asks her to convey that he will explain everything properly, and so he wants Ennis to wait for him. Sergio meets his mother's gaze with quiet determination and vows that once everything is over, he will definitely return to Ennis. The marquise lowers her lashes and relents with a soft understood, conceding that she will back down for now. She lifts a warning finger as Sergio promises yes, he will, and adds firmly that in exchange he absolutely must come back today. The scene shifts to the palace, where Sergio kneels before a cloaked figure and reports that he has just arrived. The figure glances back over a fur-trimmed shoulder with a faint smile, apologizing for summoning him so suddenly and bidding him raise his head. Sergio answers yes, sir, as the man explains that the reason he called him here today was because of Grace. A dark memory surfaces, a low voice from the past commanding him to marry Grace. Standing tall atop the steps, the king declares that he will assign another person to guard Sergio's soon-to-be ex-wife.